I would always use an attorney to do that, because when you're incompetent or dead, you make a very bad witness.
Welcome to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio. Weekly, we share interviews with real estate experts, passing on their experience and knowledge to our listeners. Thanks for joining us this week. My name is J. Darren Gross. We're so glad you're here. In just a minute, we're going to speak with CPA Bill Sefton. Bill is the owner of William Lee Sefton CPA, and we're going to talk a little bit about beneficiary designations and the importance of getting it done right before it's too late. But before we do, I want to invite you, if you have not already, and you like what we're doing, be sure to subscribe to our show. You can do it on iTunes or on Stitcher, whichever you prefer. We're on both. It's really easy. You just go into the search bar on either site and type in Commercial Real Estate Pro Network in the search bar. And when you click go, then you'll see our logo. It's the headphones with CREPN between the ears. Go ahead and click subscribe, and this will ensure that you receive all of our episodes. And you can listen anytime you choose, whether it's in the car, at the gym, or out walking the dog. When you do subscribe, please leave a comment. We'd love to know what you think. For those of you who don't know me, I am a real estate investor. I'm also a commercial property insurance broker. I've been an insurance broker for 25 plus years, and my primary clients are real estate professionals dealing in multifamily, retail, warehouse, office, and development. Also, I'm a real estate investor and have been for 20 years. Based on this, I'm always looking for more information about real estate so I can better support my clients and for information I can use in my own investing. And that's how Commercial Real Estate Pro Network and CREPN Radio came about. The easiest way to reach me is you can go to jdarrengross.com. That's the letter J, Darren, DARRINGROSS.com. Or you can also reach me on commercialrealestateProNetwork.com, and in the contact part of both of those websites, you can find me and reach out to me. Insurance is a part of any real estate transaction, and commercial insurance is considerably different than your home and auto insurance. And I encourage you to get in touch with me if you have any questions, and also reach out on jdarrengross.com. There's a free guide for you. It's a real estate investor's guide to commercial insurance that I put together. Kind of spells out the differences and some of the important things you need to pay attention when you're buying commercial insurance for your real estate. And one more thing before we get into the show today. I want to remind you that we have a LinkedIn group. It's called Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. It's a group of commercial real estate professionals, and I encourage you to check it out and join the group. But I also want to make sure that people are aware. I mean, in order to make any of these groups work, whether it be Commercial Real Estate Pro Network or any other groups on LinkedIn, and it's true on Facebook or wherever you go, you ought to check in with it daily, at least a couple times a week, and read a couple of the posts that are made by the members. And if you like something, like it. And then also what's really great is to leave a comment. I've met some incredible people and encourage you to engage the people that are posting. And if you'd like to post something, go ahead and post. All right, let's get on with our show. All right, on the line with me today, I'm fortunate to have Bill Sefton. He's a CPA down in San Francisco. He's also the owner of William Lee Sefton CPA. Bill, welcome to the program.
Glad to be part of you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this. Bill and I met a little while ago on LinkedIn and struck up a conversation on the phone there, and we got to talking a little bit about, that chapter in life that we all eventually get to, but most of us don't want to think too much about. But the longer you go, the more evident it becomes that chapter is coming. And but before we get into that, I wanted to ask if you could do myself and the listeners a favor and tell us a little bit about your practice, and what you do in your practice.
Well, I got my CPA back in '67 after getting my master's degree in accounting at USC in 1966 and my bachelor's degree in economics at Willamette University in 1965. And for the last 30 years, I've been doing individual income tax returns. And about 20 years ago, one of my clients said, Bill, you really should start helping the seniors, the retirees, with their money and their living trusts and estate planning because so many people haven't done anything. And so I started doing that about 20, maybe 30 years ago, and I moved into my home office because most of my clients were mailing me their income tax information, so why should I spend $30,000 a year on an office? So I've been working out of my home ever since, and I'm 72, so now I choose what I want to work on, which projects, and I do it on a flat fee basis so I can set aside the time and billing records and get rid of all that stuff and concentrate on clients calling me and asking me questions. So I'm a very loose, easygoing, relaxed CPA who concentrates on income tax planning and estate planning. And just now launching a subscription-based project. So I've been spending the last 2 weeks reading about funnel marketing and new stuff when my counterparts my age are out fly fishing. So I love to tweak with new technology. The latest thing that came to my attention, which kind of brought this phone call together, was that I had a client who passed away a couple of months ago who was one of these precise individuals who made sure that everything was just perfectly accurate. He was a scientist engineer. He would tell me why concrete buildings would collapse in Argentina because the concrete mix was wrong. And so I did a beneficiary confirmation for all of his IRAs and other beneficiary listed assets and discovered that a $500,000 IRA had no beneficiaries listed, which was just, I don't know how these financial institutions do it, but they really dropped the ball a lot. And one of the big problems with estate planning attorneys is that they will do the trust work, do the legal work, but they won't help the client get the trust funded properly so that the real estate's in the trust and the beneficiary designations are in harmony with the trust and the estate plan. And so the client leaves much like they leave a dentist's office after having a crown done or a root canal, and they say, that's over with, I don't need to do anything about that now. And when in fact only about 10% of the project's been done, as we have to notify banks and everybody else that we've created a trust. Now, just 2 months ago, I was visiting with a prospective client over in Belvedere, Tiburon, who just sold his 3-bedroom, 1-bath home for $1.2 million. Had no financial background. He was going to come up with $1.2 million cash. He says, Bill, what do I do? I said, well, what are you going to do with the money? Where are you going to live? And I said, well, you ought to put the money into a bank account where you can get to it when you need to go buy that house in Grants Pass where you might move up to because your brother's up there. But more importantly, you're 73 years of age, and you've got your, I wouldn't say girlfriend, but your partner there. And in California, partners mean different things. But anyway, she was just a very close friend. And I said, if you have a stroke or something, who's going to make your financial decisions? It's the way you're sitting right now without even a will, you're going to end up forcing your estate into a probate. And we're going to have to hire expensive attorneys to do a probate action, custodial issues, and a fiduciary hired to handle your bills. But if you had a regular, simple living trust estate plan put together, your friend here could be doing all of that for nothing. So anyway, I don't think he's done anything, but he's gotten the cash from the house because I haven't heard back from him, and I've tried to follow up. But anyway, the point is that we really need to sit down for a few minutes and take care of the paperwork so that we can move on with our life and not leave our family with a mess.
Well, and I think that's kind of a good place to start is just maybe a a picture of what it looks like if your friend or myself suddenly is no longer here and has no plan. These terms, probate and all these things. Could you kind of walk through what that is so that people understand exactly what we're talking about, the mess that happens without a plan?
Yes, but let's back up a little bit. Let's say that we have a really close friend, and we're really tight. Maybe we play golf with each other every month or so or go fly fishing. And he really hasn't connected with anybody, hasn't kept any friendships. And all of a sudden, he's been in an automobile accident or he's had a stroke, and it's morphine and bed sore therapy. And who's going to be paying those $6,000 a month hospital bills? What will happen if he hasn't designated somebody like yourself, his buddy, as his legal backup? Then we have to go to court, and that takes an attorney, and petition the probate court for designation of who's going to handle the money and the financial concerns and such, and that person is going to have to be paid. And, of course, all of that takes time, and it becomes a real mess. It's just horrible. And the burden is really placed on the good friend that, geez, I wished I had known he wasn't together. I wish he had helped me out and gotten his affairs in order, at least named me. And the other thing is that when you do name people for your estate plan, that maybe you name a friend that you wouldn't normally name, but as a last resort backup. I have several clients who have named me as number 5 or number 6 in succession, just in case the family has a fight or something goes sour. I'm the fall guy.
So there is a line of succession then if number 1 or 2 or 3 or however far down the line aren't available or not in good standing. And
if numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 all resign or are not available because they've died or something's happened, then you got to go to court and have the beneficiaries ask the court to name somebody, and that's expensive. It's all a matter of pre-planning.
Right. So even in the situation you just described where the person hasn't died, but the person is in need of care and services, those bills are coming, and I'm assuming that at some point the way the system works now, the place that is providing the care, if they're not getting paid, they'll stop providing the care and or lien the property or however to but
what they'll do is they'll force somebody to be appointed to take care of it.
Right. And not necessarily to your liking.
A totally unknown person that probably is making good money doing this sort of thing.
Right. So that's the messy kind of a way that things can happen. Let's back up and talk about just what is kind of the first thought that somebody should have. And I think I want to make sure that, our listeners are understanding this, because I think, so many times, again, I introduced it earlier, but I think this is a chapter in life that nobody really wants to read that far ahead in the book. And it doesn't really kind of get real until maybe it happens to friends or close family, to where you see this thing kind of unfold and you realize that there's some details that need to be attended to. So if you've been working hard your whole life and you've been, like a lot of my listeners, working in real estate and accumulating properties or and they're looking to pass the business on or the properties on, et cetera, there's a way to handle that to where it happens the way they want to, and but it's something I think that it's a sensitive topic where most people don't really get excited about talking about it.
This is true. However, a conversation with you, I could send you a couple of worksheets. We could take care of it in 10 or 15 minutes in just a conversation. For example, in your particular case, who would you look to first to take care of your finances if you couldn't?
Oh, my spouse.
Okay. Who right after your spouse, if both your spouse and you were in an automobile accident?
That's a list I haven't really gotten into much. I guess it'd be.
So this is really a practical, good practice.
Well, and I said, I mean, I would guess.
So in your case,
probably
you haven't thought about anybody yet. We'd either, give you a little time to think about that, and then I said, well, why don't you name me?
Right.
And then you begin to think about, well, I'll name my spouse as number one, which is pretty much an automatic, and then number two will be Jane, and number three will be Fred, and then you'll be number four.
Right.
Okay.
I was going to say it'd probably be some.
And in less than 5 minutes,
like
we've already answered the biggest problem in estate planning.
The who, huh?
Not fast. And the other thing that we need to remember is that living trusts are revocable trusts, meaning that they are changed with a stroke of a pen. It's almost like they're done with a pencil and eraser. So if you make a decision today to have A, B, and C be in succession for handling your financial affairs when you can't, that you can change that. And just simply do an amendment to the trust and have your signature notarized, and that's it. That's simple.
So
I would always use an attorney to do that, because when you're incompetent or dead, you make a very bad witness.
Yeah.
But the attorney is a really good witness. Yeah, he was in my office. That's what he wanted to do, so that's what we did.
Well, that's an important distinction there. You don't want to. No, and I think the thing that I've seen here recently with clients is how things change when there's money involved, and the lengths at which people will go to whether it's out of spite or actually for gain. But I think the point is that if the plan isn't clear and the parties aren't agreeable, the attorneys are not shy about staying engaged as long as they can.
I call it the opportunistic attorney. That is why it's so much helpful. It's so much more helpful if we do that estate plan now and let it ferment, if you will, or let it age, let it be around for a while. John made this decision 10 years ago. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing last week. And then realize that it can be changed and make sure it's done by a reputable attorney. So if there is any question going forward, any opportunistic attorney will say, well, I really don't want to go up against John Vaught. He really knows his stuff. And I'm pretty doggone sure they dotted all their I's and crossed their T's. In fact, as I flash back to a war story about 6 years ago, if I may, this is about a 5-minute story. Do we have time for a good 5-minute war story?
The stories are excellent exam. I mean, I think they serve well for this, so please.
Well, this gal was ambulatory. She had her leg amputated, so she was pretty much bedridden, and she drove the trustee of her trust after her husband had died nuts. And so this scientist, engineer friend who was the trustee of the trust resigned. And so she was left with no one to handle her money and her affairs. And so her step-grandchild stepped up to the plate and said, Grandma, I'll take care of you. No problem. So he would travel 100 miles from his home twice a week to check on Grandma and make sure the caregivers and everybody was doing what they were supposed to be doing. Did that for 2 years. Well, Grandma dies, and all of a sudden her daughter shows up and starts wanting to know where the money is, and then hires an attorney, a very expensive attorney, when that expensive attorney learned that I, and through my website, my background, and that John Vaught, one of my favorite attorneys in these kind of situations, and his website, were coaching the executor, grandson, the attorney backed off and said, well, I can see that you obviously know what you guys are doing, and so we're just going to be here watching you and make sure you do it right, but we're not going to really bother you, get in your way. So that was a great way to diffuse a child that suddenly comes into the situation because her mom has died. She wants her money, but she didn't want to spend any time with her mom while mom was alive because mom was so cranky. So again, a strong estate planning team is really important, and having something tied down, locked in, beneficiary designations up to date, funding documents done. But all of that's really simple if you just take a few moments and sit down like we just did and decided who your successor trustees were going to be and your successor executors were going to be. If we get that done, everything else is so much smoother.
Yeah, no, I've got a client. It's a real estate firm, and the parents started it. The son kind of grew into the business, and the daughter never was involved in the business. And the son, gained ownership in his own personal properties, and he's brought his family into it as well. But there were still the assets of the parents. That it was on the death of the mother that the daughter felt that more of the operation that was his was actually mom's, and it turned into an ugly 3 years of attorney billings, and it was just going to court and accounting and records and just money that just could have been divided between them, went to the attorneys, and it really kind of opened my eyes to just how messy this thing can get, and especially the larger the state and the more people that are involved and maybe feel slighted or however it can get kind of messy.
Well, one of the ways to correct that kind of a problem, again, if we look at it now instead of when that problem starts, is that if you have a family member that's working in the business and is making the business work, kind of like Robert Schuler's son, who took over Robert Schuler's ministry, the Crystal Cathedral down in Southern California, that had pretty much collapsed, if you will, as we know it, because of this kind of a situation. I was just talking to a client about that yesterday. He was a large contributor to that organization. But anyway, one of the ways you can fix that early on is that the parents get a life insurance policy, and when the business owner parent or operator parent dies, that life insurance policy pays off the non-participating child, okay?
Right.
Or parent, and the child that's been running the business, junior, gets the business.
Right.
So we provide a bucket of cash to go to one beneficiary while the business goes to the other beneficiary.
Right. No, absolutely. That makes it easier, and then that both feel as though they receive something, and hopefully an equitable. It seems equitable, and each can go their own way and feel good about it and move on with their lives rather than toiling. And it's an aging process to go through that kind of a thing. I know it was very emotional for my client, and just the stress and just the frustration of it all. And here it was a sibling that was, that you grew up with, and
it's normal. It's unfortunate, but it's normal.
Yeah.
So that's why I suggest to people just give Bill a call. Let's just talk this out and talk this through and see what we can come up with, and maybe we can put something in place that's easy and simple, and it's forgotten. It's done.
Right. Hey, so so we talked about the first step is defining the who you want to be the beneficiary, or not the beneficiary, but the trust.
The designated authorities, I call them.
What was that?
The designated authorities.
Okay. And then from there, do you go line by line of all the assets to determine what's what and where it goes, or?
Yeah, what I do is I do what I call a snapshot. I take a picture of their balance sheet as it exists today, which is a spreadsheet listing of all their assets and liabilities. And then I'll take that listing and I'll analyze it based upon, are there tax deferreds in this, like an IRA? Is there life insurance in this that might have its own beneficiary designation? And what are the assets that are supposed to be in the living trust that may not be? And determine that these assets are properly funded in the trust that they're supposed to be, and all of that's correct. And then I turn around and take that spreadsheet and spread it based upon the beneficiaries that the client wants. So if the client says, I want my children, I have 3 children, I want my children to get 1/3 apiece, then I will take that wealth and I will spread it on another spreadsheet, 1/3 each one of those children. So then we can see, this is what's going to happen. And about 15 years ago, I had a client who had a very high-priced, expensive estate planning attorney that ignored my spreadsheet, which showed that 50% of her assets were tax deferred, and that she wanted most of her money to go to nonprofits. Well, this fellow ignored the tax implications and had people getting these tax-deferred assets. They would be paying income tax on their inheritance. When I said to him, and we got another attorney, we fixed it real quick, where we had all of the tax-deferred money, all the IRAs go to the nonprofits, and they'd escape complete taxation. If that made any sense.
And I wanted to rewind there just a bit because, tax-deferred, I assume were they like government bonds, or was it like Roth kind of stuff, or what was it that made them tax-deferred?
These were
tax-deferred. I'm sorry,
tax-deferred annuities and IRAs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking more in lines of tax-exempt, but tax-deferred is like an IRA.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so the tax-deferred then, obviously, when it's paid out, then it's considered ordinary income. Is that okay? Whereas if it goes to the nonprofit, then the nonprofit has.
They get dollar per dollar. They get it all.
Right. Let me ask something on that, because I hadn't really thought about this, but if you have, let's say you've got an IRA, it's $1 million, and you pass, and it goes on to your heirs, and let's say you got 2 kids, $500 each, and then pre-tax, and they pay taxes on that based on their income, or is it?
Yes.
Or I guess then the alternative would be to have some sort of a living trust that would then go into the trust and fund the trust? Or
give me your case study again, or give me your...
So let's just say Darren is a widower. He's got $1 million IRA, and he passes, and he's got 2 children. And the intent is 50-50 to him.
So the children get $500,000, but out of that they'll have to pay income taxes on the $500,000, and they'll probably want to get the money all at once, not do a stretch IRA and stretch the money out. So they'll pay at the highest income tax rates. Now the alternative, if you were smart, and you're smart, aren't you?
I like to think so, but I've been proven otherwise sometimes.
The alternative is for you to get a life insurance policy. 2 life insurance policies, $500,000 apiece. Your children get $500,000 income tax-free on your death, and then you give to your favorite charity, like my high school alumni association, the $1 million. So the charity gets the full $1 million. The government gets nothing. Your estate's worth $2 million, so it's way under the estate tax limitation, so we don't have to worry about the estate tax. And everybody comes out great. All you have to do is pay the premium.
premium on the life insurance.
But since you're the owner of the life insurance policy, you can go in there and borrow out of the life insurance policy. And if you need the money, you can do lots of things with a life insurance policy if you should need to.
Right. No, that's a pretty clean way to do it there, and I guess then the only thing that you're out is the premium for the life insurance, right?
Right.
That's good.
Actually, you're not out the premium either. You're out only the cost of insurance, because some of that premium is going to go to build up the cash value of the life insurance policy.
Right. A good point. And like you said, you also have access to the cash value if you buy a whole life policy there. Yeah,
or a universal life.
You mentioned, and again, the example just being $1 million, but you mentioned tax exempt. What is the limit right now for a taxable estate? How much is?
About $6 million.
Is that scheduled to continue to increase, or was that?
Yeah, I believe there's a cost of living increase each year, but it may be a congressional bill that gets passed every year where they up it a little bit, or they'll lower it depending upon, the politics and who's in power. But it's about $6 million right now.
Which is a sizable sum. And is that per person, or is that for a married couple, or is that?
That's, I believe, per person.
Okay, so if you had a couple, $12 million, then that's pretty.
Not likely that the couple will die together. So.
No. But I mean, as far as if a couple, husband and wife. I guess you're right. It would be more if husband dies and his estate passes to his spouse.
Right.
And then upon her death, whatever the value of the estate is what would be the determination.
If I were to die and I had a $6 million, it would go to my spouse,
right?
Estate tax free, and when she dies, she would have a $6 million exemption.
Right. And if she had a $6 million and you had a $6 million, and together she had a $12 million, then the tax would be due as whatever the rules.
But by that time, we would be involved in a serious estate planning team, and we would look for ways to avoid the estate tax through life insurance, or find ways to pay the life insurance. But more often than not, people that are in those high wealth situations like to give to charity, maybe their church, okay, and that reduces the estate that's taxed. So there are lots of things that we can do, but I don't know who would be listening to this, and I find that we often get involved in these esoteric atmosphere when it's not really of interest to the average person.
Right. What do you know? What the
and let me interrupt you if I may. Oftentimes, everybody thinks that you don't need a living trust, or the only reason for getting a living trust is for estate tax reasons, okay, or to avoid probate. No, the reason why you want to get an estate plan and a living trust is to provide designated authorities to handle your affairs when you cannot. Has nothing to do with dollar value of the estate.
Designated authority, huh?
Yeah. When you do an estate plan, you in your legal documents you'll state who will handle my money if I cannot, like I am on morphine and bed sore therapy, or who will handle my estate when I die, my executor, or who will make the health care decisions for the doctor when I'm in a coma in the hospital, and do I want to have the plug pulled, or do I want to be maintained on life support?
Right.
All those people may be different people.
Let me ask you, we talk a lot about assets. Let's talk a minute about liabilities.
Okay.
If you have, whether it be mortgages or debts, are they at the front of the line? Are they treated? Can you run through how that how that plays out?
Well, generally speaking, if you got a mortgage on the property, of course, that gets paid off first because it's attached to the property. And any debts of the estate or any debts of the individual would have to be paid for out of the funds that the estate had.
And it's just they're in front of the line simply because of the...
Yeah, before the beneficiaries get paid. Beneficiaries get paid after all the debts are paid.
Okay. And does it get complicated if you don't have... if you end up going through probate and all the court stuff, does it get quite a bit messier that way, or is it...
yeah, because the whole purpose of probate is to make sure that everybody gets paid, all the creditors get paid. So somebody can appear in probate court and say, well, I lent Joe Schmo, who just died, $10,000 10 years ago. He hasn't paid me back yet. And in order to get rid of that creditor, he's paid the $10,000 just to get rid of him, whether it was a bogus debt or not.
Right. No, that would be not good, and that would make for a messy, encumbered situation. And I would think that anybody that has a parent or a spouse that has some assets, or not just assets. I think you made an important distinction about it's not all about the assets. It's just about the orderly. How are things going to be handled when you're not able? And that designated authority. That's
Well, when I was a college planning specialist about 10 years ago, it became quickly, and also was doing the estate planning, it became quickly apparent to me that and when my daughter was in an emergency room in San Francisco, that we parents, after the child becomes legal maturity, which is normally 18 years of age, we have no rights as parents. So as soon as the child turns 18, as one of the rites of passage, we should have them sign a health care directive stating who the child wants to have medical decisions and such, and to know about their medical situation. That's really an important document. And so it's probably a good idea to do a little itty-bitty estate plan for the younger folks, especially if they get married and they start having children.
What kind of a review process should one consider? Once you get this set up, it's kind of static, or is it dynamic? Does it grow and move as things change, or?
Well, certainly if there's some major event that's happened, such as the death of a spouse, then it needs to be reviewed and looked at. But I would look at it every year, and that wouldn't take more than about 20 minutes. You pull out the estate plan, and you look at the page that says, who are my designated authorities? And say, well, do I want those same people still? Yeah, okay. And then you pull out the beneficiary designation area, how much money you want to go to certain people. You look at that page. Is that still good? Okay. And then you put it away.
So you mentioned the worksheet that you send and have a couple of pages where you kind of go through and get this snapshot of what is that kind of like a map then of what you have and how it should be, or how you would like for it to be distributed? Is that kind of what we're... And then from there, what do we do? Once we have the map, do we have our estate plan, or do we now then need to go talk to our attorney? Or
well, we have to go to the attorney to get the legal documents prepared and signed off and done. Yes.
So is it?
But there are some do-it-yourself websites that are available.
Sure. I'm sure the Internet's introduced that a couple times. Let me ask you, but I think the value is in knowing what to do, not just being pointed in a direction and go figure it out, only to figure out that you misinterpreted.
Well, exactly, yes. That's why we hired an attorney. That's why we hire an attorney to help us get the legal documents done. If we don't have an estate of any dollar value, then we can probably do something off the internet. But, it's kind of like the difference between using TurboTax to do your own income tax return versus having a CPA do your tax return.
Right. No, clearly there's value in the one that practices at a higher level as opposed to the. I mean, if all you have is a W-2 and you don't have any deductions, I suppose that's probably, a fine way to go about filing your taxes. But clearly, once you have any kind of scheduled, business or expenses, et cetera, things can get a little more complicated, and you could end up either paying more taxes or creating liability that you hadn't intended. And had you paid the professional to help you through it, you would have had the guidance of the professional. I've always felt that. And
I've always felt that with me, you could do your part of the preparation of the tax return during the halftime of the Super Bowl game.
Well, I guess depending on what you have.
Yeah, I mean, you gather all your tax reporting documents you get from the banks and everybody else, you put it in an envelope, mail it off to your CPA, and that shouldn't take much longer than a halftime of the Super Bowl game. Well,
and again, if you have less, I suppose, but I know plenty of my clients with real estate and stuff. There's a little bit more of a.
But they get property management reports every year, don't they?
Or if they're engaged in managing the property on their own. There's a little bit more record keeping and gathering. I mean, you've got your tax and all of your expenses. I mean, obviously, if you're maintaining it, it's a matter of just going and printing out to the report.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you. So
keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Well, and if you keep up with it, that's entirely the case. It's just a matter of, like I said, print out the reports and you reconcile it on a monthly basis, and there's no mess, no fuss. You print the reports and go see Bill. Trying to think here, we talked about the kind of the map and then the attorneys and also I guess the need to review it. You mentioned revocable, the opposite being irrevocable. Can you touch a little bit about that, just so people have a frame of reference as to the...
Yeah, the revocable living trust gives us an option to change it. Okay?
Right.
We can erase it with an eraser. It makes it really flexible. Until such time as we are no longer legally competent, then it becomes irrevocable. Okay? Some people create irrevocable trusts for specific reasons, such as the special needs of a child that is not competent to make financial decisions. Or we might have a companion animal trust where we set aside money for the care of our cat or dog after we die. And that would be an irrevocable trust. And we did that about 10 years ago for this gal whose primary concern was her cat. So we set aside $500 a month to take care of the cat. And when the cat died, the money that was left in the trust that hadn't been spent on the cat went to the beneficiaries of the estate or the family. So sometimes we have a trust like that. And some people might have other irrevocable trusts for different purposes, but the average person probably does not have a irrevocable trust unless it's to avoid something like the estate tax and have an irrevocable life insurance trust. But that's kind of again in the stratosphere of estate planning.
I'm just trying to think here on the. Do you know what the life expectancy tables are right now? Have you seen? I haven't looked at them for a while.
I haven't looked at them for a while, but we're living a lot longer than we used to.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things I've become aware of is that I was just listening to somebody else this morning talk about how his grandmother was going to be 101.
Yeah.
And
it's not unusual.
Yeah, I think the centurions are, is that what we call them, the 100
yeah.
centurions?
My sister's mother-in-law died at 106.
Was she in good shape at that point, or was she?
Not when she died.
No, that. But it is. I mean, I remember as a kid, somebody hitting 70, or 80, that was huge.
Well, I think Social Security was designed that everybody at the age of 65 was going to be dead.
Yeah, funny how they haven't figured out how to move that line, have they?
Well, they try to, but every time they do, they realize they're going to lose some votes.
Yeah. Well, it's either have a system that's got nothing in it, or keep everybody happy by giving them a promise, right? But well, Bill, this has been informative. Is there something that we haven't touched on that you feel like we should have addressed for the purpose of kind of the designating the beneficiary?
No, but they can certainly anybody can certainly reach back to me through you. I'm a very casual, easygoing guy. I'm here in my home office about 14 hours a day doing what I enjoy doing, and I try not to answer the phone when I'm involved in something, so nobody should be concerned about interrupting me, because if I was going to be interrupted, I wouldn't answer the phone. So,
that easy, huh?
Yeah, that easy. Just give me a call.
Why don't you go ahead and give your contact information, and I'll put it on the in the show notes there, so anybody would like to reach out to you.
That would be great. Yeah. 925-735-735. 6529, which spells OK on your telephone keypad. 6529. And I'm in the Pacific time zone, San Francisco Bay Area.
So give it to me one more time. I'm writing it down here.
925-735-6529.
Got it. And you're also on LinkedIn. Anybody on LinkedIn, I encourage you to check. And
William Lee Sefton.
Yeah, connect with Bill. Well, Bill, I appreciate you making time for us today, and look forward to talking again soon.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Everybody have a great rest of the summer.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Well, as they say, death and taxes are the only guarantees in life. If you work hard and you create an estate, eventually you'll no longer be here. But without a plan, you'll leave the burden of your affairs on your heirs. And so I encourage you and encourage all of my listeners to make a plan and visit the plan on a regular basis. That way you know that when you're gone, or even if you're not able to make decisions for yourself, that your wishes will be followed. If you'd like to reach out to Bill Sefton, our guest today, you can do that, and his phone number, he gave it on the show. It's 925-735-6529. Pretty down-to-earth guy and a very experienced in estate planning. He can answer your questions there. Before we leave, I want to remind you again, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our show. We'd love for you to follow us and be able to hear all of our episodes. We know you're busy. We thank you for making time for us today. We do appreciate you. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.